Israel's military says it has carried out airstrikes on militant targets in Gaza. The strikes come hours after rockets were launched from the Palestinian territory. Israel says 3 out of 5 rockets were intercepted by the Iron Dome air defense system. No casualties have been reported on either side. The escalation comes after the Israeli military conducted a deadly raid in the West Bank city of Jenin. The Palestinian Authority says 9 people were killed in the operation, which Israel says was intended to thwart an imminent attack.
Palestinians flocked to the streets of Jenin to bury their dead. They say one of the victims was a 60-year-old woman. This video released by Israel shows troops moving in on a house in the Jenin refugee camp in a rare daytime raid. Israel said the house was being used by suspected militants plotting an attack against Israelis. This is what was left of the home after the military said it detonated explosives being used by the suspects. The 3-hour raid is being described as the deadliest Israeli operation in the West Bank in 2 decades. The Jenin refugee camp is considered a stronghold for the militant Palestinian organization Islamic Jihad. Islamic Jihad is designated as a terrorist organization by the EU. One of the group's leaders vowed defiance after the raid.
Our resistance will carry on. We will not back down from confronting the occupier. We will not be intimidated.
The raid quickly triggered Palestinian protests and clashes with Israeli police. Israel's far-right national security minister praised the mission and reiterated that troops have the government's full backing.
I want to congratulate the anti-terrorism forces, the Shin Bet, who carried out a successful operation last night. We support our soldiers in the war against terrorists, against the militants.
Israel has put its forces on heightened alert, fearing more attacks. Palestinian anger has been on the rise since Israel's new governing coalition, the most far-right ever, took power last month. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is due to visit both Israel and the Palestinian territories next week in a bid to help de-escalate tensions.
A short while ago, I spoke with Sami Sokol, a freelance journalist in Jerusalem. I asked him if there's any sign that tensions are easing now after the latest flare-up in violence.
Yes, well, I'll give you the best sign is maybe the fact that we've seen that the schools around the Gaza Strip inside Israel are open as usual. Now, we know that if the military thinks that there will be some more rocket attacks coming in from the Gaza Strip, what they usually do is that they announce that the Home Front Command announced that all schools will be shut down within a certain range from the Gaza Strip. Now, the fact that the kids, Israeli kids, are going back to school in the area surrounding the Gaza Strip would kind of give you kind of an indication that we're not expected to see more rockets flying in from the Gaza Strip. So what we're seeing now is that Israel received rockets that were launched from Gaza, but there were no casualties. Then Israel struck back into the Gaza Strip during the night, but again, there were no casualties on the other side. There was damage to infrastructure belonging to some of the militant organizations, and now we're seeing a kind of a lull, and of course we have to see where it's going to head towards.
Now, the Palestinian Authority has said that it's halted cooperation with Israeli authorities, security cooperation. What consequences could that have?
Indeed, this is a very important component between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. Israel Authority, to a large extent, relies on this kind of security coordination in its combat against some of the militants in the West Bank. But again, we've seen these statements in the past, and we don't know how long this will last. And I would assume that with the arrival of the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, next week in the region, meeting both with Israeli officials and Palestinian officials, this is also something that could be fixed. And we've seen it also happen in the past, these kinds of announcements. But no doubt we're in a very tense situation between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, who is very angry with these killings yesterday in Jenin.
Indeed, tensions running very high. There's a lot of anger. What's the situation then in the West Bank right now, Sami?
Yeah, well, I can tell you, I was in Jenin yesterday, and the situation over there was very tense. People there are very angry, and they expect that there will be solidarity with Jenin after the killing of people in Jenin. They expect the Palestinian Authority, they expect the factions, they expect Hamas, they expect the Islamic Jihad to retaliate. We know that the Palestinian Authority has announced a 3-day mourning period. We know that there are calls to go and confront Israeli soldiers. And what we've seen yesterday, we've seen protests. We've seen one Palestinian killed yesterday in these protests, and we're yet to see what will happen today, which is the Friday.
Sami, thank you very much. Journalist Sami Sokol there in Jerusalem.